credits that shouldn't be attributed. So you do want an attorney to review it. It's a significant investment. Yeah,
Do unpaid back taxes show up in the search?
absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, LLC versus corps. What's the difference? Not enormous differences, but so the filing fees and et cetera. Essentially, I like to advise clients the following as far as LLC and corps. If you want to be able to sell shares of a corporation and you want to have kind of like tiers of voting stock and unvoting stock and have like complicated different types of shares and Class A shares and B shares, that's when corporations are generally good. For simple type of transactions with minimum amount of members, we try to use the LLC. It works out a little bit easier. So generally in these types of real estate transactions, we advise to use the LLC. The benefits of corporations versus buying things individually is, if you have a tenant that's on the property, or just some guy that walks by the property and he falls and he hurts himself and he hires an attorney and sues you as the owner of the land. I mean, you might have some insurance in place, but if you own it in your own individual name, he's going to sue you individually. And that's far more difficult to deal with you're being sued individually than being sued as just a shell entity. Okay, so you definitely want to protect your name and protect your own individual name by investing a little bit of money in creating an LLC and putting the property into LLC. Now some people, yes?
I read that in some real estate instances, they sell their LLC.
Right.
Why would you do that? I thought that was a forever sort of thing you would do.
Yeah, sometimes people, rather than transferring title from one buyer to seller, they transfer the membership units or the shares of a corporation. They sell the LLC rather than selling the asset. Why do people do that? Generally, in very large transactions, I've seen that they do that. In smaller type of transactions, I don't really see that. In large transactions, there is a benefit because in these huge transactions that are $10 million, the costs of closing these humongous transactions are very high. Okay, you're talking, huge numbers, $500,000 in just transfer costs, in transfer taxes, to the clerk, transfer taxes, as we discussed, the doc stamps. So those very large transactions also, they want to hide the sales price to show that to minimize the real estate taxes. So generally, in very large transactions, we sell the LLCs, but generally, in the smaller type of transactions, we just sell the property. Okay, we'll just.
The LLCs, you have one property or can you have multiple properties on?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it would certainly depend on what type of on what type of person I'm dealing with. Generally, people that are asset protection gurus, they want you to have each property in its own individual LLC. I tell people that I don't advise people to do that because with enough insurance and enough asset protection strategies, loans, mortgages, etc., we don't need to have 10 different LLCs if we own 10 different properties. Also, if you have partners in different deals, you're going to want to have a different company for each different deal and investor that you have. Okay, it's kind of like it would require a little bit of custom advice. You'd have to discuss a little bit more in depth. Yes.
If you have a property now that's in your personal name and you want to switch it into an LLC, how difficult would that be?
It wouldn't be that difficult. There is a transfer tax associated with it.
Right, isn't it just like paperwork basically?
Yeah, but is there a mortgage on it?
Mm-hmm, but it's
Yeah.
a private mortgage.
You need to get permission from the lender. Be in your docs.
Yeah, that's
Well,
true. You need to.
But it's private.
private
It's
one.
private.
I mean,
It's
even
not
if you don't
like,
get permission from the lender, you can still transfer it You can still transfer it, but you're gonna have to pay a tax on the mortgage.
That's fine,
Okay.
because it's with a private, it's private.
Yeah, but you have to pay, you have to pay transfer, you have to pay a transfer
So do I even
tax.
have to go to them and tell them I'm doing it?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I can transfer title to whoever I want. I can transfer 2 titles, to my grandmother, to my uncle, you can do whatever you want.
How long of a process would that be?
Nothing.
Okay.
You just get a deed, you write the person's name in it, you
Perfect.
take it down to the recording office. But we could talk a little bit more about it.
No, that's perfect.
Michelle,
Thank
right,
you.
Michelle?
Yeah.
We could spend a little bit of time just
Okay.
discussing it, okay? I mean, nothing is always so simple, but we could spend a little bit of
No,
time.
that's okay,
We
you
can-
answered what I needed to know,
Okay.
so that's good.
Okay, just a little bit about asset protection strategies. Homestead, okay? Homestead is very serious law down here in the state of Florida. Homestead protections. Generally, nobody can take your home away from you except your your bank, the mortgage company, that the lender that loaned you money to purchase the home. The HOA, they could take your homestead for non-payment of fees, association fees, and contractors that do work on your homestead. Those are the only 3. So, for example, if there are other people that owe you money, they can't force you to sell your homestead. Okay, so homestead protections are very serious. That's why what we try to do is generally, as far as asset protection strategies, what we try to do is we try to have the non-homestead property encumbered by mortgage, and we try to have our homestead as an investment, because nobody can come and take that from us. I mean, if we have money in the bank, somebody with a judgment, if there's a lawsuit or a judgment, they could come and take that from the bank. If they get a judgment, they could convert the judgment into a writ of possession and essentially take money out of your bank. Also with investment properties, you could lose your investment properties to your judgment holders, lien holders, etc. But your homestead, nobody can take that from you. So if you have $1 million in cash, your $1 million in cash is far better protected in your homestead than in your bank, okay? Because nobody can come and take your homestead. Even if you, God forbid, I mean, we all heard about this billionaire that ran over a 23-year-old kid and killed him in Boca somewhere. Well, that person, I mean, if he had all of his assets in his homestead, they could never take it from him. And he doesn't even have to respond to the lawsuit. He could have a $20 million judgment against him. They can never convert that against his homestead. Okay, homestead is, nobody can take that from you. That's why we have all the other properties encumbered, so that if